Consider the moment you first wake before the world rushes in. In that sliver of time, there is a quiet awareness that exists before your name, your history, or your plans for the day. It is the simple, silent fact of being. We often take this for granted, treating consciousness as a mere background hum to our busy lives. But what is it truly? Some describe it as an inner light, while others see it as a vast, empty theater where the play of reality is staged. Is it possible that this awareness is not something we have, but something we are? It's a question that has lingered for millennia, hanging in the air like dust motes in a shaft of afternoon sun. We find ourselves looking out at a universe that seems separate from us, yet we are the ones providing the gaze. Perhaps the mystery of consciousness isn't something to be solved, but a space to be inhabited. There is a specific quality to the feeling of being aware. It isn't an action we perform, it's more like a canvas upon which our thoughts are painted. Have you ever noticed how your focus can shift from the words on a page to the sound of a distant car and then to a memory from years ago? Through all these shifts, the you that observes remains constant. Many describe this as a sense of presence, a quiet underlying stillness that persists even in the midst of chaos. It can seem as though we are sitting on the bank of a river, watching the current of our experiences flow by. Is this presence unique to each of us, or is it a window into something more universal? We might wonder if the boundary between the observer and the observed is as solid as it appears, or if it's more like a mist that dissolves upon closer inspection. Often, we think of awareness as a muscle we must flex, a state of concentration we must maintain. But what if awareness is actually effortless? Think of the way your ears hear a bird's song without you trying to hear it. The sound simply arrives. In the same way, the world arrives in our consciousness. It suggests a state of being that is naturally open, like a mirror that reflects whatever passes before it without judgment or fatigue. Some find comfort in this idea that at our core, we don't need to strive to exist or to know. We are simply the space where existence happens. If we stop trying to direct our awareness, what might we notice that we usually miss? Perhaps the quietest parts of our experience hold the most profound questions. We have all experienced those moments that defy easy logic. A sudden thought of a friend right before they call, a feeling of unease in a place that looks perfectly safe. We call it intuition or a gut feeling. It's a sensation of knowing something without knowing how we know it. For many, these instances are small, fleeting glitches in the predictable fabric of the day. But they leave us wondering, where does that information come from? Is it possible that our minds are picking up on signals that our five senses aren't designed to process? It's a curiosity that persists across every culture and every era. We might describe it as a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, or perhaps a whisper from a part of ourselves that isn't bound by the clock on the wall. There is a weight to the sensation of just knowing. It isn't like a guess or a hope. It feels more like a memory of the future. Some describe it as a sudden clarity, as if a veil has been momentarily lifted. It often arrives in silence, when the analytical mind is quiet. Why does this experience feel so different from logical reasoning? Logic is a path we walk step by step, but intuition feels like arriving at the destination without the journey. We might ask if this is a hidden capacity of the human brain, or if it's an indication that we are connected to a larger web of information. It is a subtle, persistent mystery, one that invites us to consider that there may be more to our reality than what we can measure with a ruler or a scale. Some suggest that what we call intuition is actually the brain's incredible ability to recognize patterns. It's possible that we are constantly absorbing thousands of tiny details. The tone of a voice, the flicker of a shadow, the scent of the air, and processing them below the level of conscious thought. In this view, intuition is not mystical, but a form of super-fast computation. Our gut is simply the output of a biological computer that has seen this pattern before. It's a grounding explanation. Yet even for the skeptic, the feeling of intuition remains a profound experience. Even if it is just pattern recognition, we might wonder about the depth of the patterns we are capable of seeing. How much of our world is structured by rhythms we feel but cannot yet name? Despite the biological explanations, many people describe intuition as something that feels distinctly external, as if a thought was handed to them rather than generated by them. It's the muse of the artist or the inner voice of the seeker. This sensation can be quite startling, a sudden arrival of an idea that feels entirely foreign to one's own usual way of thinking. It leads some to wonder if the mind is more like a radio receiver than a hard drive. If we are receivers, what is the broadcast? Perhaps we are tapping into a field of shared consciousness, a reservoir of human experience that we all contribute to and draw from. It's a thought that challenges our sense of being separate individuals, suggesting instead that our private thoughts might have public roots. Throughout history, different cultures have given many names to this shared awareness. Some spoke of an anima mundi, or a soul of the world. Others described a great mystery that connects all living things. These interpretations often suggest that our individual intuition is simply a localized ripple in a much larger ocean. In these traditions, the goal wasn't to solve the mystery, but to align oneself with it. They saw the world not as a collection of dead objects, but as a living conversation. While modern perspectives might frame these as metaphors, the persistence of these stories is striking. Why have we always felt that there is a thread connecting our inner lives to the movements of the stars and the turning of the seasons? Perhaps these ancient stories were attempting to describe a feeling we still struggle to put into words today. If we entertain the idea of information existing beyond the self, we move into unsettling territory. It suggests that knowledge might not be confined to the skull. Some researchers and philosophers have explored the concept of non-local mind, the idea that consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but rather channeled through it. If the brain is the hardware, perhaps consciousness is the signal. This would mean that certain experiences, like knowing someone is in trouble miles away, aren't impossibilities, but features of how reality is structured. It's a radical departure from our everyday understanding, yet many find that it resonates with their most profound, unexplainable moments. If the self isn't a closed box, where does I end and you begin? Stories of premonition, of seeing a future event before it happens, are as old as humanity itself. We often dismiss them as coincidence or the tricks of a creative memory. And yet the accounts are so numerous and often so specific that they continue to haunt our collective imagination. People describe dreams that later come true in vivid detail, or a sudden change of plans that narrowly avoids a disaster. It's as if time isn't a straight line, but a landscape that we can occasionally see from a higher vantage point. While these stories lack the rigor of a laboratory, they possess the weight of lived experience. They ask us, what if the future isn't something that happens to us, but something we are already in some small way participating in? In the late 20th century, there was a period where even Cold War intelligence agencies explored the possibility of remote viewing, the idea that a person could perceive distant locations using only their mind. While the results were debated and the programs eventually closed, the underlying question remains: why did we look there in the first place? It suggests a deep-seated suspicion that the human mind isn't limited by distance. We describe feeling close to someone who is far away, or sensing the atmosphere of a room before we enter it. Perhaps these are the faint echoes of a capability we have forgotten how to use. It's an exploration of the boundaries of the self, asking if our awareness can stretch across the map just as easily as it stretches across a room. Why do these experiences persist? Why, in an age of satellites and microscopes, do we still talk about vibes, hunches, and connections? Perhaps it's because these feelings are a fundamental part of the human architecture. They represent the edge of our understanding, the place where our maps of reality end, and the territory begins. Across every continent, throughout every century, the stories remain remarkably similar. This consistency suggests that we aren't just making it up. Instead, it seems we are all reporting back from the same mysterious frontier. Whether these experiences are biological, psychological, or something else entirely, their persistence is a testament to a world that refuses to be fully explained. We continue to look into the dark, not because we expect to find a monster, but because we suspect there is something they're worth seeing. Of course, Skepticism is a vital part of this exploration. Our minds are prone to bias, to seeing patterns where none exist, and to remembering the hits while forgetting the misses. Doubt isn't the enemy of mystery. It is the tool we use to ensure the mystery is real. It's important to ask, are we just telling ourselves stories to feel less alone in a cold, vast universe? The skeptic reminds us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But perhaps the evidence isn't found in a laboratory, but in the quiet, undeniable shift in perspective that happens when we stop demanding proof and start paying attention. Doubt keeps us honest, but curiosity keeps us moving. Can we hold both at once? The sharp eye of the critic and the open heart of the dreamer? There is a limit to what explanation can provide. We can describe the chemistry of a tear, but that doesn't explain the experience of grief. We can map the neurons of a brain, but that doesn't explain the feeling of I am. There is a gap between the description of a thing and the thing itself. This gap is where we live. When we reach the edges of what we can explain, we are left with a choice. Do we assume there is no more to see? Or do we acknowledge that our tools might be limited? Perhaps the most important truths are the ones that cannot be spoken, only felt. In the silence where explanation ends, a different kind of understanding might begin, one that doesn't require words to be true. What if belief isn't just a conclusion we reach, but a lens through which we see? If you believe the world is a hostile place, you will notice every frown and every shadow. If you believe it is a place of wonder, you will notice the way light hits a leaf. Our expectations act as filters, highlighting some parts of reality while obscuring others. This doesn't mean we create reality out of thin air, but it does mean that our experience of it is deeply personal. It's possible that two people can walk down the same street and inhabit two completely different worlds. We might ask ourselves, what lenses am I wearing today? And what might I see if I tried on a different pair? Belief might be less about what is true and more about what we allow ourselves to perceive. If belief shapes our individual perception, what happens when those beliefs are shared? Throughout history, collective ideas have shaped the physical world, from the cathedrals we build to the laws we follow. But it might go deeper than that. Some suggest that our shared attention and agreement actually reinforce the stability of the reality we experience. We agree on the value of $1, the meaning of a flag, and the boundary of a country, and so for all intents and purposes, those things become real. We live in a world built of shared stories. It leads to a fascinating, if slightly dizzying question. If we all changed our minds at once, would the world change with us? It's a reflection on the power of the collective and the delicate threads that hold our mutual reality together. Consider the way a group of people can be moved by the same piece of music or the same sunset. In those moments, the boundaries between individuals seem to thin. We are all feeling the same thing, at the same time in response to the same stimulus. This collective agreement on beauty or meaning is a powerful force. It's as if we are all participating in a grand, silent consensus. Many describe a feeling of oneness during these events, a sense that the I has temporarily merged into a we. Is this just a psychological trick, or is it a glimpse into a layer of reality where we aren't as separate as we think? These shared moments remind us that meaning isn't something we find, it's something we create together. There is a profound comfort in the idea that reality is something we interpret together. It means we are not alone in the dark, but are instead co-authors of the story. This shared interpretation provides a sense of ground beneath our feet. We look at a tree and agree it is a tree, and in that agreement, the world feels solid. But we might also wonder about the things we don't agree on, the fringes of experience that fall outside the consensus. If reality is a house built of shared belief, what lies in the shadows outside the windows? Perhaps the things we call paranormal or impossible are simply things we haven't yet agreed to include in our collective story. The map of what we know is always changing, guided by the questions we dare to ask together. Living inside uncertainty can be frightening, but it can also be a form of freedom. If we don't have all the answers, the world remains full of possibility. We often rush to fill the void of the unknown with labels and theories, as if silence were a problem to be solved. But what if we stayed in the silence? What if we allowed ourselves to simply not know? There is a certain dignity in acknowledging the vastness of what we don't understand. It keeps us humble, and it keeps us curious. We might find that the truth isn't a destination we reach, but the way we travel. In the space between what is known and what is felt, there is room for everything we have yet to become. Can we hold curiosity without needing an answer? It's a difficult practice in a world that demands certainty. We want to know if consciousness survives death, if intuition is real, if our beliefs change the world. But perhaps the power of these questions lies in their ability to remain open. An answer is a closed door. A question is a path. When we stop demanding a yes or a no, we begin to notice the nuances of the maybe. We can appreciate the mystery for its own sake. Like a piece of art that reveals something new every time we look at it. It is a way of living that values the search as much as the find. What if the point of the mystery isn't to be solved, but to be lived? There is a quiet comfort in not knowing. It relieves us of the burden of being right. When we admit we don't have the full picture, we become better listeners. We stop trying to convince others and start trying to understand them. This shared humility can be a powerful bridge. We might realize that, despite our different theories, we are all standing in the same fog, looking for the same light. The mystery of consciousness and belief doesn't have to divide us. It can be the common ground where we meet. In the end, we are all just travelers in a world that is much larger than our ability to describe it. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. So we return to the beginning, the simple fact of being aware. It remains the most intimate and the most mysterious part of our lives. No matter how much we learn about the brain or the universe, the central mystery of I am remains untouched. It's an ongoing question that each of us answers simply by existing. Every thought, every intuition, every belief is a part of this unfolding inquiry. We are the universe's way of looking at itself, wondering what it is. And as we look, we find that the more we see, the more there is to discover. The story of consciousness isn't a book with a final page. It's a song that is being written as it's being sung. Perhaps reality is more flexible than we think, not because we have magical powers, but because our participation in it is so fundamental. If our awareness is the medium in which reality appears, then the quality of our awareness matters. A mind filled with fear sees a world of threats. A mind filled with curiosity sees a world of wonders. This isn't about ignoring the real world, but about recognizing our role in how it is perceived and shared. We are not just passive observers. We are the ones giving the world its meaning. It's a quiet, subtle responsibility, the task of choosing what we pay attention to and how we choose to believe in one another. As the night deepens, the world seems to pull back its boundaries. The noise fades and the stillness grows. In this quiet, it's easier to feel the threads of connection that we usually ignore. We might feel a sense of peace in the unresolved, a contentment in the questions themselves. The mystery of consciousness doesn't need to be solved tonight. It can remain a companion, a gentle reminder that there is always more to the story. We can rest in the uncertainty, knowing that the sun will rise on a world that is still and will always be beautifully unexplained. Sleep, perhaps, is our way of dipping back into the source of that mystery, letting go of the I until the morning light returns. If we are all ripples in a shared ocean of awareness, then no thought is ever truly lost, and no feeling is ever truly alone. We are part of a grand, unfolding experiment, a collective dream that we wake up to every day. What if the most important thing we can do is simply to remain open, to keep watching, keep feeling, and keep asking, what if? The answer may never come in the form of a fact or a formula. It might only come as a feeling of belonging to something vast and nameless. So, we leave the door cracked open. We leave the light on. We stay curious. Because in a world of shared belief and silent intuition, the next moment is always a possibility we haven't yet imagined.